All right, welcome to another edition of the Foursquare Show. We are recording here on May 21st, Wednesday, on a very chilly Massachusetts spring day. We got ourselves, of course, Mr. Dan Richmond and Mr. Joe Costa coming to you from Houston and Maine, respectively. I assume, actually, unless you guys have gone somewhere else. Okay, all right. Let's keep the momentum going. All right. It's been about a month, I think, since our last show. Our viewership is looking great. I think the last time I checked, one of our last, I don't know if it was our last show, I think got about like 40 to 50 views. The one before that, which Joe was your first show, your debut, that puppy got about 75. So let's keep up. Let's keep it up. Let's keep going. We have had some internal discussions since the last show, which we're going to talk about. But before we do that, I have an update. I think this is a good update. So Peter, who I think we discussed before, he's the guy who runs the show. He randomly called me this morning. And of course, I wasn't available at the time of his call, and then I had to call him back, and then he wasn't available. Anyway, I got a hold of him. And so this is literally late breaking information. I just talked to him, I don't know, an hour ago. And
don't make
drum roll here. We got the drum roll. Come on, spill the beans.
Don't make it too bigger because then people will be disappointed. But okay. So he let me know that he just spoke to ESPN Ocho. And okay, bad news, good news. I'm going to give you the bad news first.
Yeah.
The bad news is that they had originally said to him that in order for Ocho to cover the World Championships, they would need some form of video. They would need some better understanding of how the event and sport takes place, etc.
Some sort of audition or preview of some sort.
Exactly, yes. Which, I mean, I did provide already, like, some of the video that I had from the socials, Instagram, last championship, the championship before that. But I think they needed a little bit more than that. And I know, Joe, we talked a little bit about live streaming the upcoming championships and, maybe thinking about other ways of making that happen. However, they also said that and this is still in the bad news category. They also said, Dan's out of here. His video's gone.
I'm still here.
Okay. All right. They also said that there is some sort of, I don't know what it's officially called, but an annual event that takes place. It's at a different place every year. This year it's in August in Orlando. I think the year before it was in South Carolina. It seems to be in a hot weather city or location. That people can go to do a demo of a unique sport that ESPN doesn't currently cover in an effort to have them be interested in covering. Again, there's an official name for it. I don't even know or remember what it is.
A live audition.
Correct. So in other words, like if we and whoever wanted to go to Orlando in August to this event and just basically play Foursquare for an hour demoing what we do, then that would be like the best thing that can happen. However, the bad news about this is that it costs $15,000 to just submit an application and be able to be part of this event. So I'm going to go ahead and say that's probably not realistic.
Yeah, I think it would be cool to be able to do a live audition of Foursquare. But logistically, and based on resources, I don't think that's going to be feasible to be able to bring enough people.
We'd have to bring at least 10 people.
Yeah. I was going to say 8. Because back when I think I was either a sophomore or a junior in high school, I was part of it was like a community service club to be able to build your community service hours. You had to have a certain amount by the time you graduated. And one of the events we did was the first Foursquare World record, longest continuous game of Foursquare. Um,
Oh.
and we had 8 people doing this. So
Were you part of that, Joe? Sorry if I missed
yeah,
that. Were you?
yeah,
Okay.
no, I actually spearheaded that event.
Nice. I
I
think I
think
read
I
about that
saw
on
that
Wikipedia.
on square4.org. I think that it was covered. It's
Nope.
not. Or was it Wikipedia maybe I saw
I,
it
I
on?
think it's on Wikipedia. There were several. I was reading about like Bridgeton Academy, a couple of other schools, Foursquare in general, and there were a couple of records that came up, some of which had to do with schools in Maine, but I can't remember any of the details off the top of my head.
Oh, I gotta look this up.
Either way, let me see if I can find it and send it to you guys.
What was the record? So how long did you go?
When we attempted, I think it was 36 hours, and we were attempting 37 or 38.
Did you do it?
No, no, we did not have a lot of information provided to us when we attempted, and the method of which we were playing, I think, discounted us. So,
Ah, okay.
but
Did you
this
go
is a story for
to
another time.
Yeah,
Did
yeah.
you go to Manchester College by any chance?
No, this was
Okay.
Poland Regional High School.
Oh no, I see Needham High School, Manchester College. The world record was held by 8 Argentinian players in 2008. A group of teens from Youngstown, Ohio, and this is like 3 lines on a Wikipedia page. So
We are going to spend an entire episode on this situation because I'm extremely intrigued. So I am.
Anyway, so
I'm.
while you guys are digging this, I guess I'll continue the
yeah,
conversation.
keep going, man.
So anyway, everyone that's watching, uh, yeah, so logistically and resources, it's going to become unfeasible to send minimum 8 people to this live audition.
Yeah.
So I think we should just focus on doing some sort of either a live stream for next year or um Eric, I think you were putting together a day where we have people playing Foursquare down in your neck of the woods. So we can record that maybe and submit that as another piece of evidence of the game. So we have plenty of options at our disposal. It's just it's got to be logistically feasible. It's got to make
Realistic.
sense.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
absolutely does. Well, this kind of bleeds into the good news, though. So I didn't get to the good news. The good news is that Peter feels, and I agree, that what we can do, apparently, is get the Ocho crew, and I'm not exactly sure what that consists of. I don't know if it's literally one guy with a camera or a team of people. Peter seemed to know more about this, and
But it's a camera crew of
it's a
whatever
well,
size.
it's again, I don't know if it's a camera crew, meaning one person with a camera, or if there's like a team. Yeah, I don't exactly know, but he said that it is possible to have this crew, again, don't know how many people that is, but this crew come from, I forget where he said they're centrally located.
Assume
Um,
Connecticut, right?
I would
Is
think
it
so
not?
too, but I don't think it is because there's
Wherever they come
definitely a
from.
plane flight associated with this, which I don't think would occur if they were coming from Connecticut. I think it was somewhere down south, maybe in Florida, Georgia. So I'm not sure, but
Wherever.
he said that if we could get this crew to come to the next World Championships to not cover it on the Ocho, but to perform this video sample that's needed, that would be ideal. And he said that that is possible to do. He said that it would just need to, it would require the cost of plane fare and accommodations for the crew. He said, and which would obviously be way less than $15,000.
I mean, if it was 5K, I'd be surprised.
Yeah, I would be surprised as well. Right. Bucks. Honestly, I would, if I like, yeah. Well, and he said too that there was.
I mean, I can get there for $1,000. So
yeah, I mean, I was thinking somewhere around that, honestly. And he said that, there were some connections he has in terms of accommodations and things like that. So the next step is that he is now going to get in touch with that crew, let them know the date, which I think we can go ahead and, did we already announce? I don't think we announced yet. Did we announce the date for next year? Let's do it.
I don't know if I have it on my calendar, so I don't know.
Why? This is the first I'm hearing of it, so.
Well,
ladies and gentlemen, you're in the same boat as me.
We got just a lot of late-breaking information here today on this wonderful show. I want to make sure I'm delivering the right date, so I'm bringing up my calendar. Okay, here we go. April 24th. No, strike that. Strike that from the record.
You had one job.
I blew it. I'm out. Saturday, April 25th, 2026. That is the somewhat official date of the 2026 Foursquare World Championships. So Peter is getting in touch with them, or him, or her, or whoever it is, to nail down the logistics and the details of that. And then next steps will be to try to fundraise a little bit to obtain the funds needed to bring this crew up to perform this situation.
Which we're hoping is a low single-digit thousand number of dollars.
I would agree. I would assume so as well. So wheels are in motion in terms of media coverage on the Ocho. And I'm looking forward to getting an update from Peter, hopefully relatively soon, so that we obviously, if there's anything we can do to assist with that. But yes, Joe did mention that in July, and Dan, I did not mention this to you, just because I didn't think you were going to spend $1,000 to come up to just play like an hour to the Foursquare with us. Although maybe you will, I don't know.
But, I mean, that's what I do every April, so I'll just do it twice this year.
But yeah, looking to get I think I have about 5 or 6 guys, Joe, assuming you're in, to just meet and play Foursquare. So more to come on that, because we'll probably have a couple of shows leading up to that event that's taking place in July. But anyway, late breaking information on what's going on that I wanted to just kind of cover here before we jump back into our regularly scheduled agenda. Anything else, Joe or Dan, that you guys had in regards to that, or off the bat, before I kind of circle back to some of the things we wanted to talk through?
I'm just going to challenge you on your potential underestimation of my desire to play Foursquare. I will go anywhere. I mean, I fly up to Maine every year. So if you guys are playing somewhere and you don't include me, then I'm coming after you. But definitely, yeah. Let me know if you guys are ever getting anything together. I may or may not be able to make it, but love to have the chance.
So you can fight that out with Eric. I had nothing to do with this.
I know. So on my screen, we're both on top of Eric coming down at him.
I second that, Joe. It had nothing to do with this. This is all me. I take full responsibility, and I, for what it's worth, Dan, I absolutely was going to let you know about it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very much in the tentative stages, but we did nail down a date. So yeah, that's on me. I should have let you know. July 12th, I think. Oh God.
July. This July 12th.
This July 12th. Yes.
And what are you guys doing then?
We are meeting at a Foursquare court in my town to play the wonderful sport of Foursquare. We have about 5 to 6 current confirmed members. I've reached out to many others who are, looking into it and going to follow up with me, hoping to get at least maybe 10-ish or so, but hoping to, as long as we have at least 4, I think we're good. So happen to, hopefully I'll have just a couple of fun tournaments, crown a couple of amateur champions. This is not a sanctioned world championship event, but just looking to have a good time playing Foursquare. See, that's another. This is another topic for another day. But man, it is just hard to just play Foursquare.
Well, it's hard to get the
To
people
get the
together.
people, yeah, just get people together. Like, I mean, I love playing with my son, but he's 9, so it's not like I'm going 100%. And I may have a friend or two or my brother or something, but to get at least 4 people is tough.
I mean, I'm thinking we just take. I'm thinking we just take a ball out, go to. I don't know if you guys have like open green spaces, almost like a park. We've got a bunch where they're shopping areas and restaurants and apartments and workplaces, kind of these mixed use, whatever it is. And I just want to take a ball and some tape and go out and just start playing with like 3 people and see who joins. And if it's 3 of us that play for an hour and a half and 500 people look at us like we're crazy, well, that's what it is. And if other people join in, all the better.
Yeah, it was.
That's my dream.
I was a member of, well, I still am, but it seems as if it's no longer occurring. But coming out of the 2023 World Championships, I met some people in the Boston area, so in my area for the most part. And I got included, as I'm going to show that I'm 43 years old and not hip with all the cool apps, Joe, like you are. But Group Me? Is that a thing?
Bold assumption there, guys.
Yeah.
Bold assumption.
There's a Group Me? You guys got one?
Dan, you know Group Me?
We've got Group Me's for various things. I'm looking at fairs. I might be able to make it, actually.
You're coming then. You're coming. Well,
I think
what's Group Me?
Okay, so Joe, okay, I guess you don't know Group Me. I didn't know Group Me. So I guess Group Me is an app that just brings like groups together to meet. It makes it easier to like I don't know, it's just basically glorified like just text messaging. I don't really know. I don't know. I don't know. But anyway, I say that because there was a Boston Foursquare club that was meeting somewhat like maybe once a month during the summers. And Dan, the situation you outlined, that's exactly what was happening. I went to, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 of them, which was super fun. And there was maybe about 5 to 6 of us that just got together and started playing Foursquare. And it was in the Boston area, so it was like a relatively public place. And people would like walk by and be like, watch us. And every time we see them, we'd be like, come join, come join. And every now and then people would, and then they became part of the group. And then, it started to get a little bit, I don't know, maybe there were 15 people or so. And then for whatever reason it stopped. So, yeah.
So let's see. I don't know if you guys know this. I love planning travel. Like I love finding flights and hotels and all that logistics and stuff. So what time would this be and what time would it end? Because that means that all it is should I plan to go back on Sunday or on Saturday night?
Yeah. Well, I mean, first of all, you're welcome to stay with me.
Appreciate it.
We have a guest room with Trista up in college, so that's number one. You are too, Joe, by the way. Anybody is. Time. We haven't nailed down a time yet.
If Joe's in Maine, he's about 3 hours away from you. I'm in Houston. I'm about 3 hours. I'm about 4 hours away from you. Just different modes of transport.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a different different way of getting here.
Yeah.
I was thinking sometime around mid to late afternoon, maybe like 1, 2 o'clock ish. That is up. That's flexible. We can figure. Right now I determine the date and I'm reaching out to people, and then I want to get like a group chat going. Maybe you group me, and we can then just all like figure out what's best for everybody. So you are going to be included on that, Dan, and I am going to take a big L for not originally including you, thinking you wouldn't want to come from Houston.
One of us lost internet.
Oh, you back? You good?
You said I'm going to take a big.
I'm going to take a big L for not originally including you, because you have already very much shown your dedication to this glorious sport. So,
let's see. I mean, I can get there 10 p.m. on Friday. Super easy. I got some options.
Just curious, what is like the cost right now of a plane flight from Houston to Boston of what you're looking at?
It looks like about $300. So not the end of the world. Getting home on Saturday might be a little tougher, but getting home on Sunday shouldn't be too bad.
Okay. Well, we'll take this offline. How about that?
Absolutely.
And by the way, anyone who's listening, let me know. Reach out. You're more than welcome to join. More the merrier. Okay, let's circle back to some of our agenda items. One of the things that popped up on our last show, which I alluded to this earlier, we talked a little bit about this kind of behind the scenes outside of our show. And I think we kind of came to a conclusion, but we'll talk through it. So the out of play zone, which is what now we're kind of referring to it as. We talked a lot about the specifics about this on the last show, so we don't necessarily have to kind of go through all those details. But we talked a little bit, and I think Joe and I, it sounds like we're in alignment. And Dan, I think this was your idea, so I assume this is probably something you agree with. But it's now probably just determining a little bit of just the the details surrounding it. So just real quick summary, out of play zone. We're thinking about having basically a taped square that would go around the perimeter of the four square court itself. We were talking about it being about 10 feet out on, in every direction, where if the ball were to, be struck by a competitor into somebody else's square, and it was struck in a method which was basically be like a really hard, huge, big slam that would bounce in someone's square and then bounce and land in this out of play zone, then the person who hit the ball would actually be out. And I think we discussed all of the reasons why we feel as if that is, why that makes sense. We also, since our last show, reviewed some literal game footage to, even kind of drive home that point. And I also thought of the analogy, which I think I may have shared with you guys in an email, but in baseball, or maybe I did mention in the last show, baseball with there's foul, and then there's like the out of play area where, which is basically like where the fans are. A baseball player can't jump into the fans and catch a foul ball, like it's out of play. And another thing I thought of, by the way, and this may be actually where we play our thing we were talking about in July. We have a four square court in town, which it's a good court, but there's a fence around the court, not right on top of it, but it's honestly probably not even 10 feet. It's probably like 6 feet out of the four square court. And it's like I don't know, 5-foot fence. So obviously, and this actually does happen, if a ball gets hit and it goes over the fence, you run and you get to the fence, you can't continue. That's out of play. And then we would just probably continue and do it over, especially if it was realistic for the guy to get there. So there are four square courts that, in a way, kind of already implement this kind of out of play zone.
So the question remains, and we may have talked about it last time.
Yeah.
I'm hitting it into your square. I absolutely wallop it. It bounces in your square and then flies 500 feet, over the fence. Am I out or are you out?
You.
The person who hit it is out. Yeah.
So the goal of the barrier is to keep the game contained, playable, and you're required to make hits returnable, at least space-wise.
Correct.
And
yeah. The further discussion on it is, at least with the Foursquare World Championship, how would we implement this? And I think I don't know whose idea this was, but the idea is to implement this barrier for the championship rounds. Because if you think about it, the typical Foursquare is what, 16 by 6? No, 8 by 8, I believe. Or is it 10 by 10?
Let me look it up while you continue.
We should know this off the top of my head, but either way, it's about 10
but
by 10.
Let's just say like 10 by 10, right? So your perimeter is actually going to become 30 by 30.
Because you get 10 feet on each side.
Yes. So this is not something you can implement on during the preliminary rounds where we have 8 to 10 courts going at once, because the courts are going to be on top of each other. So realistically, having that 30-foot perimeter barrier is not happening. So
what that means for visualization is 1 4-square court with the barrier around it is the same size as the in-play area of 1/2 of a tennis court.
Excellent.
So you could get two 4-square games going with the barrier on one tennis court, one on each side of the net.
Yep. 16 by 16 foot square divided into 4 equal 8 by 8 squares. Does that make sense?
We're looking at 16 plus 20 would be 36. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Peter mentioned as well this morning that he is still working on the venue. And he's thinking it is going to be the elementary school in Bridgeton, Steve something. I forget the name of it. And he said, I don't know if we want to Google it, but he said that there are 2 gyms that are in the school separated by like a stage, so you can kind of walk, and it's kind of like an open space, and you can kind of walk from one to the other. So as we are
Stevens Brook Elementary.
Yes, I think that's it. Yes. I know, Joe, we talked about possibly, since you're somewhat in the area, swinging by at some point and maybe getting a good physical,
getting measurements and just getting a better layout.
Yeah. So, that's still something that we can think about once it's maybe nailed down that that's the venue that it's going to be at. Because, if we have 2 gyms at our disposal, does that then open up the option of bringing this into more than just the championship rounds? Maybe not, but I agree with Joe. I think at the very least we can definitely bring it in to the championship rounds, and then depending on the space and this, the logistics of the situation, we can determine if the out of play zone is going to be in the other rounds. My concern, which isn't a big concern, I mentioned this in an email as well, is just having like a different process or a different rule in each of the rounds. So for example, if we don't have the out of play zone in the first 2 rounds, what we do in the championship round, I don't think that's a big of a deal. I'd rather have that than not have it at all. But ideally, I think we all agree it would be nice to have it. But again, we need to just be realistic to the situation that we're in until we end up
but
in
also
Madison Square Garden someday.
But also you got to think of it as, your perspective on the game. So championship round is much more serious compared to the preliminary. Even though with the preliminary round, you're focused on trying to reduce how much you get out.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you're supposed to have fun.
Yeah.
Right. So, in my opinion, I view the preliminary rounds as, you're being focused, you're working on reducing how much you're getting out, but you're having fun. It shouldn't be a job, if that makes sense. While once you're in the championship round, I take that more serious, where now you need to hunker down and strategize how you're playing. So that's why I like having that out of play zone in the championship round only, because now that's adding a layer of complexity on how you play. Because now if you start wailing the ball and it goes out, it's on you. It's not on the person you're trying to get out.
I like that.
I think I support that. I think I support that conclusion for a different reason, which is, unlimited resources available, unlimited space available, unlimited refs available. Yeah, we'd love to have the same reffing and fence and facility and all that for all of the rounds, but it also makes sense to say, hey, look, we can only do this in one place because of the space limitations. So it's not unfair that it's only in the championship round. I don't see it as, I don't think anybody would advance to the championship who wouldn't have if these restrictions had been in place in the preliminaries. It's just a resource issue.
Yeah.
And yeah, once we're in Madison Square Garden and we've got, rotating rounds of things, it won't be an issue anymore. But I don't see a problem with, hey, look, in the finals, we've got this available, so the rules are slightly different.
Both.
Wish we could have done it for the preliminaries.
Right. Yeah, both extremely well said. And I love the fact, my favorite part of what you both just said is not if, but when we're in Madison Square Garden. It's a matter of time. The other thing about this, and then I think we can move on, is it doesn't, our goal here isn't to remove slams. And I guess this is in regards specifically to when the out of play zone is in effect. Because again, we just talked about the fact that, it likely will only be in effect during championship rounds. So specifically to that, our goal is not to remove slams. Our goal is not to remove power players. I think we talked a little bit about this in our last show. However, it is in an effect in an effort to minimize the unhittable, unreturnable, unhumanely possible hits. So, there should still be slams in the championship round. Slams still should likely occur, but just not as, I don't know what the word is, powerful, not as unreturnable as, you just need to be strategic and careful with the type of slam that you're that you're providing. So
I would say this solves the sitting duck problem. You're a sitting duck, you're standing there going, there's nothing I'm going to be able to do. At least it gives the defender of a wide open hit a chance.
Yeah. Like it. Okay. Well, I think we can temporarily shut the door on that. That's being implemented into the rule book. Obviously, if anybody has any objections, any other counterpoints, whatnot, obviously feel free to let us know. We haven't really heard anything otherwise, so we are going to go ahead and make an executive decision here in terms of the rule for that. I am making a running list of other rules and things that we've been discussing that we would like to have some sort of vote if need be. But that is one that I think we all feel pretty good about. Okay, moving on. Next part of the agenda is something that has been brought up. It's been brought up during the event. It was brought up after the event. I know Grayson and CJ mentioned it in the kids division on the last show. And it's in regards to air balls. And this is something I know, Dan, you and I talked about a while back. We had Judy on, and I think we made a bit of a rule change heading into the last World Championship, where the kids division, the boys and the girls, they cannot do air balls. The women and the men can. One thing that got brought up, which is an extremely good point, which is it didn't make a lot of sense for air balls to be set up that way when in the first, I think it was the first round, women played with the children. So it was kind of like I had somebody come up to me and ask, am I able to do an air ball? Because I'm in the women, division, but I'm playing with the kids. And I didn't have a really good answer to that because it's a good point. So thoughts on that, and some of that may play a part into another little nugget, which is, should women be playing with the kids in the first round or two? Again, I think ideally, obviously, we would say no. But now we got to, as I know Joe mentioned this earlier, and this is always something to just keep an eye out on, which is we also there's the ideal situation, and then there's realistically what can we actually really do and not do, considering any limitations we may have, timing, space, etc. Thoughts on all that?
I'll say certainly to start off would be resource issues. We know we're constrained. Population issues. We know there's not always enough women to justify a large preliminary round. With only 6 courts, we've had them playing together for a reason. Let's see. There was another one you had put in there, which was should we have them playing in there? Should we have air balls? Something that came to mind was in the kids division, sometimes there's a wider variety, a wider range of skills. You've got an 8-year-old playing against a 15-year-old or a 7-year-old playing against a 15-year-old. There's obviously going to be a large difference. 14-year-old, whatever it is. Yeah. It's effectively a child playing against an adult. Yeah, there's going to be a skill difference there, a lot, but how do we keep that fair? And again, once we have 1,000 people playing, we can have a 7 and 8-year-old division, a 9 and 10-year-old division. So a lot of it is, hey, coming to the realities. I'm okay with whatever for that group. I want to make sure it's fair. I want to make sure kids have a good time, similar to what we've been talking about. Nobody's getting, absolutely bombed on all the time and is like, why'd I even come? So I'm not quite sure what to do about that one. It's a tough problem trying to keep it fair and fun and competitive, especially for a 14-year-old who's going to be in the adult division next year.
Yeah.
So there's a transition of some sorts.
A couple ideas we can do is either during the preliminary rounds, everyone plays together. So instead of trying to separate it, everyone plays together. But the players, when they get out, you have a line of the scorekeepers. So as the players go through, they have to talk to their respective scorekeeper. So,
well, are you saying sorry, Joe, I don't mean to interrupt you. I just want to clarify what you're saying. You're saying that the women, we could do it where the women continue to play with the children.
Everyone, men,
you talking about the
boys,
men too?
like everyone, just general. The first 2 rounds are general play. There's no dividing of the courts. It's all mixed play, and as whoever gets out, they have to go when they go back in line. They talk to their respective scorekeeper. So wherever this, the line to get into the courts are, you'll have your scorekeepers there. One for the children's, girls division, boys, women's, men's. And as you get out, you talk to your respective scorekeeper. You tell them if you're out, right? So that's one option. 2, you could just take move the women into the men's division, because again, they're still keeping track of outs. So then that puts the women into a similar skill set. So it's not really I
like that.
It's
I like that better than option
adults.
1.
So keeping the kids separate, I think, is a better idea.
Yeah.
So that's another option.
I don't like option 1. I'll tell you that right now. But I like option 2. Yeah.
And then air balls, just let everyone play air balls. I didn't realize air balls was not allowed for the children, and I was allowing it because I think I was refereeing the girls, and they were doing air balls. So like, are we allowed to do air balls? I'm like, do it. I don't care. I don't care. If you can play it, play it.
Yeah. And I mean, yeah, maybe we need to resurface air balls for kids, because I know we did have almost a show about that, and that was, I think, again, the one that Judy was on, and she made a lot of good points. She has obviously a big group of kids, and they don't allow air balls, and she had a lot of good reasons why, which is why we ended up eliminating it from the children's division. So that can be re-looked at again. But let me ask a question. Do we feel that the women are more in line competitively with the men or with the children?
Men.
No knock, no, no, not trying to, you're just trying to figure out, because I think that might help figure this out.
Or do we
I
split
think
all three up on but I know we had sort of the issue that there aren't a whole lot of women playing. I think there were only, how many women were at the championships? 15?
Not even, I don't
Not
think.
even,
Yeah.
So do they just have a final round? It's tough.
Right. That's why we have like the women be part of, because we have a whole heck of a lot of kids, right? And then a good amount of men. And we just don't have the space, the court, the time to really
A
separate them
separate women's
out.
court. Yeah.
Of course, if there's an influx of women that are participating, then that would solve that issue and we can have them have their own court. But I don't know. From what I saw, I would be in favor of, I think, Joe's second option of having the women join the men in the first round.
If they're
Maybe
okay
the
with it,
second
I'm
round.
okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of lumped the first 2 rounds together as a combined preliminary. It's just sort of got a halftime in the middle of it. I don't see them as competitively different.
The only difference that happened between the first round and the second round is when we separated the divisions. We had I believe we had 4 different, the 4 different divisions were separated in the second round.
Okay. And I couldn't remember exactly because I was in the men's and mostly just paying attention to that one.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like we're leaning towards having the women join the men in the first round. Second round, we'll continue to have broken out by divisions, and then obviously the championship round.
One question on that, again, mostly because I wasn't paying attention to it at the championship. What is the wait time to get into a court for the kids? Is it a super long wait time or does it move pretty quick? And granted, taking 15 competitors out of that's not going to speed it up all that much.
That's a good question, one in which I don't know have the answer to, because like you and probably like Joe, we were competing at the same time. So it was hard to really gauge that. Judy might know. She was kind of part of that, so we can maybe reach out to her. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if we have maybe 4 courts dedicated just to the children. We take out whatever it was, the 10 to 12-ish women, 50, whatever it was, out of that equation. And then we have 2 courts for the men and the women in the first round, and then again we separate it in the second round. Let's think through that a little bit. We can take that offline and bring that back up, but I think the main point there was figuring out the whole airball situation when it comes to inconsistencies with the rules between the women and the children. So I think we solved for that. Okay. We have about 10, 15 more minutes. Everything that what we just covered, in addition to the last few shows, was everything that came out of this past year's championships in terms of what we wanted to talk through. And some things are obviously still in flux and outstanding, but now, unless you guys have anything else, I'm going to now circle back to the original agenda that we had to, talk through all Foursquare related topics. So
back to just the game itself.
Back to just the game itself, yeah. And of course, all of it, intermingles with the championships, but for the most part, yes. So next thing I have is the difference in court in terms of whether it's outside, inside, a gym floor, a cement floor, and wherever else you may have played. So I'll start. I've always played outside in the summer. Again, this probably goes back to how you all started playing Foursquare. Again, for me, it was during the summer, during parks and camps and things like that, where we played on a cement outside court. When I started playing at the championships, that was one of my biggest concerns, was playing now on a gym floor and how that was going to change things in terms of my footwork, slipping, how the ball bounces. I didn't find there to be much of a difference with that. Did you guys
agree with that? I'd say it was pretty adaptable. I think I always played outside. It was always sidewalk, concrete.
Yeah.
Occasionally asphalt. and it seemed to be a pretty quick adaptation. Getting into the gym. I'm not much of a spinner. I feel like it might have a different effect for them depending on just the level of grip between the floor and the ball.
Mhm.
But it seemed to be relatively minor. The biggest issue for me moving indoors was the lack of space and the ability for the ball to bounce off of the walls now.
Yeah.
That was the only kind of difference that had to be accommodated for.
Yeah, so not beating a dead horse, played outside. That's how I started. Obviously outside, way more space to run around, etc. Moving indoors, didn't really notice a difference. It's definitely I prefer playing indoors. Only because of low playing balls, you don't actually hurt yourself. Compared to being outdoor on the concrete, ripping up your knees and elbows, etc. Um,
Does it though? Like, does cement cause
The-
more injury than? I mean, I
If
guess it's a different
you're
type, right?
diving, it causes different ones. Yeah.
Yeah, a gym's going to be more scuff marks, like versus cement's probably going to be more of like
Scrapes.
a scrape or a cut. Yeah,
yep.
Yeah.
yeah,
But also this is my first year at the town hall, which was way more cramped compared to the Bridgeton Academy.
Mm.
So I don't see eye to eye with Dan on his perspective of being cramped indoors compared to well, actually, let me take that back. Actually, I can in a way, but again, that's per venue. So when I
Very
went
much so.
indoors,
Very much so.
so when I first started playing indoors, that was at Bridgeton Academy. Really no difference.
Ton of room.
Exactly. Going to town hall, well, that just went out the window. You're on top of each other legitimately, like so. Um, I guess I prefer the championship wise indoor gym floor, backyard game, outdoor cement all day long.
yeah,
And I think for championships, having control over the weather by having it
yeah.
indoors, there's a lot to be said for that.
Yes.
Backyard game, hey, it's raining. Let's go get soaked. Who cares? Nobody's traveling here. We're all just going to go home anyway. Have some fun. Everybody knows what's up. Everybody kind of signed up for it. It's like, I'm not going to play today.
Mhm.
But it's relatively low stakes, and you know, in rain, different game. In
Mhm.
snow, I'm sure, different game.
Mhm.
Yep.
So all sorts of variables. I think of it like baseball again. Hey, it might be raining that day. As long as it's not lightning, yeah, we can still play.
Mhm.
But for the championships, it's good to have that consistency.
Yeah, agreed. And it's a little bit, I think, of tennis too. How, and I'm not a tennis connoisseur, but I know enough of where there's grass, there's clay, there's
Hard court.
hard court, and I know that there are some like professional tennis players who excel at whatever, um, you know, whatever surface they're playing on. Like someone who's ranked number one in the world on grass may not be number one ranked on court, for example. And but yeah, I mean, I admittedly, I again, because as usual, it has to do with kind of how you grew up and how you started playing. I do prefer cement versus gym, though I admit there's not much of a difference. I think there's a small difference in terms of the way the ball bounces, how high it bounces, how hard it bounces, but not it's not that much. It's just a little bit.
I will ask. We always played with I call them natural courts. It was just 4 squares of sidewalk with the usual cement seams.
Yep.
Did you guys play on something like that, or have like a laid out court with a 1 inch wide line?
No, I played with where the natural cement joint.
Yep, I liked
See,
it because the line was only about that thick,
Yep.
so there was less less
Just
chance of hitting a
just
line
the
too.
thickness of the joiner. That's all it was.
Yep,
yeah.
maybe half an inch. We had, I mean, ones that were maybe a quarter or an eighth of an inch. They didn't even have a joiner in between them. I think they used like almost like a piece of paper to divide them into
Mm.
halves instead of that half-inch wood.
See, for me, I actually did play on an actual four-square court that was painted on a
Wide
cement.
lines.
Yeah, it was probably about what it is for the world champion. Yeah, about an inch wide approximately. Um, but the big difference that I am still getting used to with the world championships in terms of the court is the size of the squares. They're
They're
way
big.
larger than what
Oh
I
yeah.
am used to playing on, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It's good because um, there's more room to maybe get somebody else out. Bad because there's more room for somebody else to get you out, right?
I think I like it. I see it similar to when I was a kid. We played with 8-foot basketball hoops, and then it goes up to
mm,
10. We played with 60 feet between the bases as kids, and then it goes up to 90. And it's and yeah, there's a size aspect to it.
mm,
You're playing
mhm,
against larger people. I like the fact that it's not sort of immediately defendable by standing in one place. I think it
mm,
adds an element of athleticism. You're moving around,
mhm,
so there's something to it. Where I say, yeah, let's make it big. Obviously, too big, and somebody's getting out every other play because it's impossible to cover it. But I like the size.
mhm.
I
Yeah.
like the size. I probably played with squares that were almost that big.
Mhm,
Maybe not quite, but they were sizable because again, large pavers or sidewalk
mhm.
squares or whatever.
Yeah. Well, you guys mentioned lines, so that's actually the next topic, and then we'll probably call it a show for today. So lines. In the championships, of course, the lines are supposed to be 1 inch wide, I believe it is. I think it was one of the competitors that may have mentioned that they didn't break out a ruler or anything, but they had mentioned to me that the lines looked a little bit wider than 1 inch. Um, I don't know if we really want to kind of how we're going to manage that and make sure it's exactly one inch, um, but when I
I would almost go
played,
narrower and say, hey, look, let's get some
oh, I
let's
would
get some
agree.
1/4 inch tape.
Yeah, and maybe that's what we do then is I think it's Peter who lays down the court, so maybe that can be something that we touch base with him, before next time is if we can think about yeah, even if it's just a half an inch line everywhere. I think there should obviously there needs to be lines, but the thicker the line is, the greater chance there is of the ball hitting it. And I think we all would prefer there to be more gameplay versus someone getting out by hitting the line, which is part of the game, and that's okay. But um,
I
one
think it
thing
should be
that
like
was
I think it should be like baseball where, how often is there a tie where the ball gets there at
yeah,
exactly the same time as the foot? Yeah, it happens, but that's not the goal. Somebody
right.
should be landing in somebody's square unless it's exactly divided 50-50.
And I feel like too, like we should maybe think about trying to make it so that it's only called a line if the ball blatantly hit it right in the center versus it being close and yeah, it may have nicked it, but yeah, I, I don't
I
know.
like I like the philosophy of you're out when you hit the line only if it causes confusion on whose square it's in. Like you can't try to separate the two players and have them each pointing at each other and you go, all right.
True. However, I would argue to that, which is that at a high level competitor, a ball comes into their square and hits a line, but that competitor knows enough to just play it as if he or she should, and it's up to the official to call it or not. And so like because he or she didn't act confused, shouldn't determine whether or not they're out or not, if that
Oh,
makes
yeah, yeah.
sense.
What I
Yeah.
was getting at was, I think we all agree the ball should be landing in someone's square. There are going to be some, no pun intended, edge cases where it's impossible to tell whose square it landed in, or everybody thinks well it landed in both players' squares, and determining who has responsibility for it is important. But again, I think I agree with what you're saying, Eric. It shouldn't be the line is this thick, the ball hit it just over
Yeah.
here,
Yeah.
therefore the person who hit it is out. Like that's
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost kind of like I tend to
it's got to be
bring
on
things.
both. It's got to be on both sides of the tape.
Exactly. And I tend to bring things back to baseball only because that's probably the sport that I know the most outside of Foursquare. And it's like if the ball has to completely be outside of the
Side.
foul line. If it's in any way touching the foul line, then it's fair. And that's kind of how I'm saying that a out should occur when it hits a line, is that it should hit the main middle of the line. If it hits a little corner of the side, I would tend to keep the play going, and it's only an out if it was blatantly in the middle of the line.
I agree. I'd contrast
Yeah.
that with basketball, where if it hits a line at all, it's on the other side of the line.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always used that baseball basketball analogy. I agree. I think the goal is to say we're not trying to get people out on
Yeah.
line calls. It happens where
Yeah.
hey, you hit it smack dab in the middle, but there should be a pretty narrow zone that you got to hit it in. And thinking
Yeah.
about it now, yeah, an inch is not that wide. I think
Mm.
that tape may have been a little wider than that.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing that was still a thing that I'm getting used to, different than the way that I grew up and played, was the outside lines were also out for us. It was so all the lines, the outside line, the inside line, if it hit any line, it was out. Whereas obviously in the championships, the outside line is in, which again I don't think is that big of a deal, but just a little small variant. How did you guys play that?
We had thin lines. I want to say the outside lines were in. I mean, we almost played all lines were in,
Hmm.
unless it was really blatant, or again, both players backed away from it, and you had two people pointing at each other like that.
Yeah.
The goal was to keep the play going, so there was
Yeah.
sort of a bias towards keeping play going where
Yeah.
possible, and not prematurely cutting it off. We also did, if it landed on the line, if it landed on a line between two players, the player who hit it said, "Well, it must have landed in one of your squares. I didn't hit it out, so one of you guys is out. You two are squaring off if you disagree about whose square it was in, because it wasn't mine and it wasn't out, so I can't get out." Which
We've
resulted
always
with
played
square
it.
offs.
We've always played it outside lines in, inside lines out.
Oh, okay.
That's
That's how
pretty
you
much how
always
it's
did it.
always been.
Yeah. Um, what about blackjack? Do you guys know what blackjack is?
Is that where you can hit it more than once?
No, blackjack is when you can catch it before it bounces outside your square, and whoever hit it is out. So if you're both of your feet are outside of the squares, the ball, someone hits the ball, it does not land in your square, and you catch it before it bounces in your square, then the player who hit it is out.
I see that as a sort of a house rule or an interesting
Agreed.
variation, but not
Yeah.
canonical.
Yeah, I don't think
Yeah.
this would be something I would argue to bring into the World Championships, but
No.
it is something that,
Sounds fun, and it's an additional skill, but
yeah,
also
yeah.
you've got this core four square skills over here, and then you've got the
Mhm.
guy who's thinking about how can I game this. So you kind of got to bifurcate your mind a little bit.
It very much favors tall people, which I mean, I don't think any one of us are super tall, but if you have, especially in the squares that I used to play in that are even smaller, you can almost outstretch your hand past the halfway point, and it was a way of getting people out. But okay, I think we're up against time. We covered a lot here. We announced the next championship date. We talked a little bit about the possibility of Ocho covering us and the specifics around that. Talked about the out of play zone, the air balls, the women coming to the men in the first round, and a little bit about the court, the lines. We're going to continue this talk, and anything else that comes up, we will figure out when we're meeting again, probably in June. Was there anything else that either one of you had before we call it a show?
I'm all set.
I'm all set as well. It's always fun chatting and going over some stuff. There's plenty to talk about.
Still got plenty left. So I'm looking at the agenda that we originally put together, Dan, and I think, Joe, I put in some stuff that you've included, and I think we're not even halfway through. So the fun has just begun. Feel free to do all the things, like us, comment, share. Do we want to have a guest on the next show, or do we want it just to continue to be us?
I feel like we could
Any
use
ideas?
one more with just us and then a
Okay.
guest. I think because we went through some of the champion stuff. We got a little bit into this. I'd say we do one more and then bring a guest on.
I like it. That we shall do. Well, good to talk to you, gentlemen. We will be in touch, and I'll give you. We'll start the group me or the text chat for our event in July. But I'm sure we'll chat more before that. So
Yeah, throw me in on it. I'm planning. We'll catch up offline on travel plans, but I think I can make it up.
awesome, love it. All
Cool.
right, everyone.
Talk to you guys later.
Bye.
Have a good one, everyone.